The 2026 receiver draft class is full of a number of very talented receivers that are going to make a ton of contributions for several NFL teams. So in today's video, I want to give you guys my early top 10 wide receivers on the 2026 NFL draft. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. Now, before we actually enter into my top 10, I do want to talk about a couple players that I did watch the film of that ultimately did not make my top 10. I'm talking about guys like Jacoby Lane, who I like a lot, but man, is he kind of just a frustrating player. Omar Cooper, really good prospect. I just don't think he has the highest ceiling out there. Skylar Bell, I think his film is really solid. He was really close to making my list. Deion Burks, a little bit too small for my liking. With that said, we are going to begin at number 10 with Ian Strong, the wide receiver out of Rutgers. Now, this is a prototypical X-wide receiver that I believe is one of the best go-getters in this draft. I've read the Bleacher Report read-up of him, and they called him the best ball winner of the draft. I think that's pretty fair of him. 6'3", 211 pounds. He's got very good hands, great catching technique, physical against press. He's got great mental awareness and toughness over the middle. I do think he's a little bit of a raw player, though. Very limited route tree. He needs to work on creating some separation. He lacks some lateral explosiveness. He has some general fluidity issues. And he's not much of a yards after catch guy. So basically, the best way to describe him is a prototypical outside receiver that's going to use his ball to create contested catches. He almost has a basketball player type of frame to him. So you can kind of see where I'm getting at with him, where this is just not the type of guy that you're going to see taken in round 1 or even probably round 2, probably more like a round 3 player where it's like, hey, go win on the outside. You're going to be a big time deep threat. We're going to take some shots to you here and there. He can do a whole lot more than just that. But there's a lot of other things that he has to work on if he wants to be a more fleshed out receiver. Again, Ian Strong is a raw developmental player that you're going to probably take in round 3 that probably starts off as your wide receiver 3 or 4 and maybe works his way up into becoming like a really solid wide receiver 2 if you pair him up with like a Zay Flowers type of guy. I think would be really good for Ian Strong. So Baltimore, maybe you take him. Next up, number 9, I have Chris Bell out of Louisville. Another one of these more developmental guys. The bad news for Chris Bell, he just tore his ACL. So unfortunately, that is going to hurt his draft stock. But as a overall player, I'm still going to keep him in my top 10 for now, unless somebody overtakes him. This is, again, another one of these developmental guys. But man, there's a lot to like about him. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's a physical powerhouse who almost plays like a linebacker at the receiver position. He's got 4.4 level speed with great strength to overpower smaller defensive backs. He's a physical runner after the catch. He's effective at stacking defenders downfield. Does have a limited route tree. A lot of right now his productivity is going to be a lot of deep shots. Doesn't have the greatest twitch and suddenness. He's got some inconsistent ball tracking, but he can do a lot of fun things on the football field. You just kind of look at him and you're like, this guy can play. If you're looking at like middle school sort of scouting here, and you just kind of look at a picture and you kind of say, yeah, he could play. Man, that guy can't play. Chris Bell, he looks like he can play, and he can play a little bit. That Louisville offense really relied on Chris Bell for a lot of their productivity in the passing game, just using him in a variety of ways. I think if you are an NFL team that is willing to work with him on his route tree, start him off as like a wide receiver 3, he could turn into a really awesome wide receiver 2. I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have him. Again, the freaking knee injury just absolutely freaking, I almost cursed there. It just sucks because this was a guy that was trending towards potentially getting into that round 1 conversation, probably more realistically round 2. But there was some general buzz about maybe being a round 1 guy. Again, I think he's more round 2 or round 3, but he was getting there. And then the injury happened, and it's like, yeah, probably not going to happen because he should be able to play next year. He'll probably miss a few weeks, but he should be able to play next year. But he's probably going to miss the entirety of rookie camp, the entirety of training camp. Miss as in not be a full participant for most of it. And that's just a shame, right? It's just a shame that it happened this late into the season, and hopefully he will be ready at some point next year. And hopefully his draft stock doesn't take a huge drop because of this very unfortunate injury. But all right, let's go ahead and move over to number 8. I have Chris Brazzell, the Tennessee wide receiver. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I have to kind of preference this every time I talk about Chris Brazzell. Metro or Josh, another one of these Tennessee wide receivers. Look, Chris Brazzell is just different, right? I know the obvious people like to compare it to and say, oh, it's Jalen Hyatt, right? Jalen Hyatt, big, lengthy, speedy guy that played at Tennessee. It's a little bit different with Chris Brazzell, right? Now, Tennessee is a system where they use maximum spacing. I mean, they have these guys lining up damn near out of bounds to create as much possible space for the quarterback to find gaps, to find holes, and for the receivers to have so much room to operate. It's ridiculous how they play football at Tennessee, but it works for them. It doesn't work in the NFL, however, because it's just a totally different type of game here. Spacing is completely different. The fields are just completely different. It just doesn't work in the NFL. So for Chris Brazzell, there is going to be a bit of an adjustment period in terms of that, but he is very different from Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt was a complete just system player, deep ball, that's all his game was. Chris Brazzell is a very different type of player from him. Chris Brazzell is 6'4", 200 pounds. He's very tall. He is very thin though, right? He's not really a contested catch guy. He's not going to be somebody that's going to create a ton of separation versus very physical corners just because he is very light. But he's got a very rare size to speed combo. I think he's a pretty solid route runner. I would venture to say that he's one of the better Tennessee receivers out route running that I've seen in my time there. He's got great body control. He knows how to use his legs to toe tap on the boundary. I think he has a solid release package as well. Now, in terms of some of the cons that we talked a bit earlier about his size, he really struggles against more physical corners. He could be a little bit hot and cold, where some games he's making big plays, some games he's a little bit quiet. He doesn't really give much effort in the blocking department. That's going to obviously turn off some coaches. But if you're looking for a guy that can win downfield, that can also do a little bit more than that with his height to speed combo, I think this is a solid player. This is a guy that, again, you're probably taking more round 2, round 3. I had him kind of going round 1 in some mock drafts. I kind of simmered down on him a little bit and started to like other receivers a bit more. But I still like this guy. I still think he's a really quality player that he will translate to the NFL a lot better than other Tennessee receivers. But again, you're talking about somebody that starts off wide receiver 3, works his way into a second receiver role if it ends up panning out. But if not, he'll be a really solid wide receiver 3 for you. All right, next up, let's go ahead and talk about at number 7, I have Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington. Now, this is a receiver that a lot of people really like, and I do too. I just couldn't quite get there with this guy. I don't know what it is with me. I don't know why. I just can't really hit there with him in terms of putting him as like that 4th receiver. Now, when I do mock drafts, I typically have him going as the 4th receiver most of the time because I think that he will probably be the 4th receiver off the board. So I'm not trying to be this, different guy and say like, oh, I just hate Denzel Boston. No, I like Denzel Boston a lot. It's just I like some other receivers a little bit more than him, and maybe it's just my cup of tea in terms of style of play. I think we'll see as the rest of the list unfolds my style of play. But Denzel Boston has a lot of upside. 6'4", 209 pounds. He's an X receiver with a pro-ready frame. He's a physical player who loves the catch point and provides high-end utility in the run game. He's got a strong contested catch ability at 62.5%. That number might have changed since the last time I checked it. In fact, I'll double check real quick. He has a contested catch rate of 76.9. Sorry, I undermined him a little bit there. 76.9 contested catch rate. He's got a very low drop rate. It's around the 3%. I think he has 2 drops on the season. He's a solid physical blocker. He doesn't have the best suddenness. It's more of a gradual, long stride build up for his speed. I think his route running at times can be a little bit sluggish and a little bit unpolished. That's really, for me, the biggest things that hold me back on Denzel Boston. That all said, one of the bigger complaints I had about him last year and heading into the season was a lack of productivity versus high-end competition. But this year, I thought he was a lot better versus high-end competition. And I think he really stepped his game up. So originally, I had him more towards the back end of my list. He's working his way up. And I do think by the time we get to the combine and by the time we eventually get to draft day, I think I'll have Denzel Boston inside my top 5. It's just right now, I feel like I'm having to find my way to love this player when I just haven't gotten there yet. I do think I'm going to get there, though. It's just I got to find a way to get it in my heart. Good player all in all, though. I think there's a lot to like about his game. It's just, again, I'm getting there with him as a player. I do think he gets off the line of scrimmage pretty well. I think for the most part, he can find separation in routes. I think once he does get a really good coach in front of him that can sort of continue the nuance in his game, you are looking at a really solid 2 that might be able to work his way into being a number 1. So that's the upside of Denzel Boston. So good player all in all. That, again, he's at 7 for now. I have a feeling he's going to end up in my top 5 or 6 by the time we get to the draft. But all right, for now, let's go to move on at number 6. And at number 6, I have Elijah Surratt, the Indiana wide receiver. 6'2", 210 pounds. He's obviously going to be playing in the playoffs, so we're going to see a whole lot more of him throughout the rest of the season. He's a box-out specialist who uses his frame like a basketball player to shield defenders. He's a master of throttling his speed to keep defensive backs off balance. He's got excellent body control, wins 50-50 balls all the time, fluid hips, reliable late hands. You know, typically Devontae Adams does this best, where when a ball is up in the air, receivers often are going to run like this, right, to try and catch the ball. Makes it very easy for corners to just wham, get the hands right out because they know the ball is going to come. But if you show those late hands where you're running, the second that ball is like right here, you flash him, you catch it. That's what Elijah Surratt typically does. In terms of some of the cons, not the biggest athlete in the world. He's not explosive necessarily. He doesn't have the best long speed. And I think in terms of a route runner, there's still some refinement to his game. I just think he's a solid player, right? And that's why, to me, he's at my number 6 above Denzel Boston. Because with Denzel, it's like, yeah, he's got a way higher ceiling than Elijah Surratt, but his floor is also a lot lower than Surratt. With Surratt, it's like, I kind of know what he's going to be, and it's a really good number 2 in the NFL. It's exactly how I felt about Jaden Higgins last year, where it was like, I thought Higgins was a borderline round 1 guy, and I think Higgins is a little bit better than Surratt, but it's kind of the same sort of feel I have with Surratt is kind of how I felt about Higgins, where it was like, he's just going to be solid. He's never going to be a number 1 necessarily, but if you pair him next to a dominant number 1, Surratt could be an incredible player to put next to him. And you're kind of seeing that in Houston with Nico Collins out there and Jaden Higgins, which I don't think that's the greatest spot for Higgins, by the way. But, I mean, there's obviously a whole lot worse out there. Again, I'll go back to I think you put him in a team like Baltimore with Zay Flowers. I think he'd be great there. I just think Elijah Surratt is a very solid player that is going to be a good player in the league. Probably not a Pro Bowl All-Pro guy, but like a really reliable, consistent number 2 receiver that might occasionally get to like that 1,000-yard mark. I just think that's what Elijah Surratt is, and that's why I like him a little bit more than Denzel Boston. Again, I think I'll eventually like Denzel a little bit more because I'll buy into his hype a little bit more, but for now, I'm liking Surratt quite a bit. All right, but let's move over to my number 5. At number 5, I have Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver out of Alabama. 6'1", 204 pounds. Unfortunately, I am recording this after a game where he had one of the worst drops I think I've ever seen. He was like, he fell and laid on his butt, and the pass was so behind him. It was like almost a moon ball from Simpson. And he's like on the ground, right? And the ball just falls straight through his hands. And it was like such an embarrassing loss. If I can put the video up, I would. Maybe I could slow it down so I don't get copyrighted for it. But this is a high IQ Swiss Army knife receiver who has played across the Power 5, Michigan State, Washington, Alabama. I think he followed Kalen DeBoer here. He's a reliable intermediate threat who can even take snaps out of the backfield. He's exceptional at finding openings in the zone, versatile enough to play solid on the outside, very reliable hands. Unfortunately, he did have the drop versus Oklahoma, so maybe not so reliable. No, I'm kidding. Very reliable. That all said, he's got average athleticism, probably going to run a 4.55, 4.56, something along those range. Not a very great vertical deep threat. He's not going to win a whole lot of contested catches. This is a guy, to me, that while he can play on the inside and outside, I do think he's sort of a slot guy. I think that's what his ultimate goal is going to be. I almost view him as a prospect very similar to how I viewed Emeka Egbuka. Now, I thought Emeka was a better prospect than Jeremy, but coming out of college, there's a lot of similarities to their games. Now, Emeka has turned into a different player at Tampa Bay, at least to start the year off. It was very different. He's a better player than Jeremy Bernard. I don't want to compare them as prospects, but I almost felt like with Emeka, a lot of the same conversations I had about him, where it was like, he's not the fastest, he may not be the strongest, but he's competitive as hell. He catches damn near everything. He can win underneath. He can win in the intermediate. Won't win deep very much. You're not going to be a contested catch guy. Like, that's sort of the conversation I had about him. It's just, he was just better than Jeremy Bernard at basically everything. That's kind of what Jeremy Bernard is. He's sort of a discount version of Emeka Egbuka. Again, I don't think he's going to be as good as Emeka, but that sort of play style coming from Ohio State is kind of what you're going to get. I think in the NFL, Emeka has been a lot different than what maybe I perceived of him. But I think with Jeremy, that's what you're going to get from him, right? Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's going to probably be a slot exclusive guy. That's just going to be a reliable safety blanket for your quarterback. And if you're a team that maybe has these high-end receivers that are playing, great downfield, but they can be a little hit or miss, and you're just kind of looking for that guy that can sit in the middle, consistently find openings in zone, and just be the best friend of your quarterback. Like I look at Carolina, for example, where you got Tetairoa McMillan, you got Xavier Legette, you got Jalen Coker. Maybe you could find somebody that can kind of just work in the slot, be a bit of an intermediate, just a reliable hands guy. Like that could be exactly what Jeremy Bernard is for a team like that. So yeah, I like Jeremy Bernard. Again, not the highest ceiling player. He's very much a wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 3 on some teams. but he's just, I know what I'm getting from him. It's the same thing with Elijah Surratt. I know what I'm getting from these guys. And that's why I think I like them a little bit more than Denzel Boston. Again, I think by draft day, I'll like Denzel a little bit more, but for now, this is the order I got them in. All right, let's move into our top 5. Now, before we get to number 4, I do want to let you guys know I have a podcast called First and 10 where I've already talked about a lot of these receivers. A lot. We do our rankings, we do mock drafts, we do rebuilds, we do all sorts of stuff over there. Not just me though, it's my co-host, former NFL player Brandon Ross. He also was a scout for the Packers for many years. Great guy. And then another content creator named Cade Rathbone. He also joins us over there. So if you guys are interested in more draft content, please check it out. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. Let's now talk about at my number 4. I have Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. This is the playmaker. He is the playmaker of round 1. 5'11", 190 pounds. He's a playmaking threat in open space who doubles as a high-end special teams contributor. He's a crafty route runner who creates major yardage after the catch. I said for his strengths, elite yak ability, versatile alignment, nuanced route runner who can manipulate space. He does have some inconsistent hands. He's got a couple drops on film. He struggles with physical releases at the line. And because he is undersized, he's not going to be a plus blocker in the run game. I think he's competitive, though. I do think he's a round 1 to early round 2 guy. If you do take him round 1, probably more towards the back end. I'm a Texas fan. You can see the flag right there. When we went up against Texas A&M, Casey Concepcion was probably the best player on the field for that A&M team. He can do a lot on the field. He just finds space, and if you can get the ball to him with a little bit of some space for him to run around through, man, he is special with the ball in his hands. And again, he does create a plus there where if you're like, okay, we get him as a receiving threat, but he's also going to be on punt return. He'll also be on kickoff return, and he'll be special at both of them. It's just kind of extra added value on top of it. Now, again, he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's only about 5'11". He's not the thickest guy out there either. Like Zay Flowers is also short, but he's really thick and well put together. I think KC would benefit from adding on a little bit more muscle to his frame, but I just think he's a reliable player. Like, you know what you're going to get in this guy. I don't know if he ever is going to be a 1 necessarily, but I don't think you're going to draft him in the top 15 to be a 1. I think he's going to be a number 2 that would pair perfectly with the big playmaker next to him. I think Pittsburgh makes a ton of sense, where they could really just use an explosive element to their receiving game. I mean, they have Kenneth Gainwell out there who's been great for them, but you need another player next to him. I think Casey Concepcion next to DK Metcalf would make a ton of sense because he can play on the inside, he can play on the outside. You can use him in a variety of ways. Use him in motion, use him on jet sweeps, use him in the backfield. Like, he's just going to kind of be this ultimate weapon for you, and give him a screen, put a blocker in front of him. He might take it 50 yards. Like, that's the type of guy he is. Probably not going to win a lot of 50-50 balls. Probably not going to win downfield a whole bunch in terms of, you know, if a guy's stride with him. But he's got that speed to take the top on the defense. And if you have a quarterback that can throw that thing 50 yards down the field, you might see KC catch a couple of those ones. Special player, again, I don't know if he's a 1 necessarily, but as a really good 2, yeah, I think Concepcion can get there. But now we really get to the top 3. And these top 3 to me are in just a bit of a different tier from the other guys below them. We're going to start off with at number 3. I have Makai Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. The number 1 comp you are going to hear to Makai Lemon is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And while it might be the most obvious comparison of all time, it's also one of the best comparisons of this draft because he is very much Amon-Ra St. Brown coded. Because what makes Amon-Ra so great isn't the fact that he's the biggest guy in the world or the strongest guy in the world, is that he is so damn competitive and willing to put his body on the line no matter who has the ball in their hands. And that's kind of what it is with Makai. 5'11", 190 pounds. He's a dynamic human highlight reel with elite lateral agility and change of direction. He excels at finding the soft spots in zone coverage and uses advanced technique to overcome a smaller frame. Elite quickness off the line, late hands, only has a couple drops on film, excellent ball tracking. There are some weaknesses to his game though. Number 1, he's short, he's not very big. He struggles against physical press coverage, lacks the play strength to fight through defenders, and inconsistent as a blocker because he's 5'11", 190 pounds. I think though, man, he's just all gas, no brakes. Like, he is genuinely speaking all gas, no brakes. There's some plays on film where it's just like, how can this guy do it? You know, it's like you're not even 6 foot. And you look like you are the biggest and strongest player out there. You look like you're the best player on the field. And he is, more often than not. His play style will very much translate to an Amon-Ra type system. I think there are going to be teams that are going to look at what the Detroit Lions do to give Amon-Ra St. Brown the productivity he has, and that's what they're going to do with Mekhi Lemon. Like, genuinely speaking, like what does Amon-Ra St. Brown really do? It's a lot of intermediate, a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of slants, a lot of just, go run in space and find gaps in zone. And that's what he does. And he sits in the zone, and Jared Goff has great timing with him. If Mekhi Lemon wants to be like that, I think that's what his role is going to be. And he's going to be the quarterback's best friend. We talked about it a bit earlier with Jeremy Bernard. Mekhi Lemon's just the super version of that, right? He is going to be the quarterback's best friend. He's going to be probably sitting with the quarterback every single day saying, hey, I'm going to be here on this play. When it's in this coverage, I'm going to be here on this play. Like exactly what Amon-Ra did with Jared Goff. That's what you're going to get from Mekhi Lemon. There's so many spots that I would love to have a Mekhi Lemon. I'll go back to it. I think Bryce Young would love Mekhi Lemon. If the Cowboys were to lose George Pickens, I think Cowboys fans would love Mekhi Lemon. The Giants are going to lose Wan'Dale Robinson, although they're very different players, but Giants with Mekhi Lemon and Malik Neighbors, like, sign me the F up. San Francisco, if they lose Juwan Jennings and, of course, Brandon Ayuk, you have Ricky Pearsall, you need another weapon, go get Mekhi Lemon. Like, this is that type of guy. He is an excellent player. I suggest just watching his tape, watching his film. It's some excellent stuff. Let's move over to number 2. Let's talk about Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. This is one of those guys that coming into the season was thought to be a highly thought of player, but he even turned it up a notch, right? This is somebody that was going to be in your top 3 more than likely during summer scouting and previewing the 26th draft, but it was always sort of the question of could he take that next step? The answer was yes. He has taken that next step. He's 6'3", 190 pounds. He's a smooth, fluid technician who follows the prestigious Ohio State receiver lineage. While he's not the most sudden athlete, he has polish and a massive catch radius that can make him a reliable chain mover and deep threat. He's got incredible percentages in contested catch rate, doesn't have a single drop in the season, elite body control and route polish. Now, some of the cons to his game, he's not the twitchiest guy or the most explosive guy, which is fine, by the way. Like, most of the NFL top-end receivers are not the most explosive or twitchy guys in the world. Look at Devontae Adams, look at Puka Nacua. I mean, they're explosive, but they're not that explosive. Like, they're not Tyreek Hill explosive. Like, Tyreek Hill is twitchy and explosive, right? That's how he wins. A lot of the top guys in the league really aren't like that. They're smooth, they catch everything, they have a large catch radius. They're good route runners, but they're not the most twitchiest guys in the world. He's not really much of a yak guy, and I think he could probably benefit of adding a little bit more weight because he is 6'3", 190. He is a little bit lighter. Now, maybe that number's a little bit outdated. I did get that number probably about 2 months ago, so maybe he's a bit bigger at this point. But if he is really 6'3", 190 still, he probably would be benefit from adding a bit more weight to his frame. Not necessarily fat, but just more muscle, more mass to his size. Because in the league, a 6'3", 190 player is going to get pushed around a little bit. Like, he's basically the same weight as Mekhi Lemon. I think that's really the biggest con to his game, though, is that he's just not going to give you much as a yards after catch guy. That's just not his game. Like, he catches the ball and he turns upfield and he gets whatever he can. He'll run through you. He's just not the most creative guy out in open space. And that's going to be the biggest sort of con to his game. But I mean, man, he's an Ohio State receiver. Like, he is just continuing that lineage of being a savvy route runner who just consistently is open every single play. And I guess the argument against Carnell is that, well, last year you had a Mecca, you had Jeremiah Smith. This year you had Jeremiah Smith again and Max Clare. It's like, yeah, maybe. But you could have said the exact same thing about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and JSN. Like, you could have said the same, Marvin Harrison Jr. You could have said the same thing about those guys. And they're all excellent. So, like, why are we overthinking it with him? He's great. He's going to be a top 10 pick. He's a freaking stud. But number 1 is going to be Jordan Tyson. Now, Jordan Tyson has one of the biggest asterisks to his name because he has a pretty long list of injuries that really are going to scare some teams. Now, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He is an explosive, twitchy athlete who has significantly improved his play strength. He is a master of selling his routes with head fakes and tempo changes to leave defenders trailing, elite ball tracking and release package, arguably the best dig route runner in this class, and he doesn't really drop the ball very often. That all said, he can be slowed by physical press coverage, probably needs to add a bit more mass to his frame, and occasionally he'll round off routes rather than keeping them crisp. Really, those are sort of nitpicky things. The biggest con is that he does have some injuries to his name. He had injuries last year. He had injuries at Colorado. He had injuries this year. injuries are going to hold him back from being an incredible player. And it's so sad. I wish that wasn't the argument. I wish that wasn't even a part of the conversation, because the player on the field, the film out there, is truly speaking like a top 5 pick. I'm not even kidding. I would take him with a top 5 pick wholeheartedly if I knew that he was going to be 100% healthy in the NFL. What's going to happen though is you're going to see a lot of teams looking into the medical history of this guy and completely taking him off their board and saying, you know what, we'll pass on Tyson, we'll take Carnell Tate, or we're just passing him outright. And I could see Jordan Tyson falling a little bit, depending on how the injuries really stack up. My fear for Tyson is that he goes to the Jets or the Giants though, because him in MetLife and that stadium with all those injuries that happened there, I fear for him a little bit, because he is a very good player that just, please stay healthy. Please, for the love of the game. Because if he stays healthy, he can become a top 10 receiver in the NFL. That's how highly I think of him. That's how good of a prospect I think he is. But it's just, can he stay healthy? We'll see. We will see. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. Number one, what are you thinking of my top 10? Did I miss a receiver that maybe I want to potentially add to my top 10? If that's the case, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll watch their film the second I see your comment. Hit that like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.